Okay, I can't hear anything. Am I signed in? What's going on?
Apologies, Tina, can you hear us now?
I can hear you now, yes. I can't see anything except pages in front of me.
You should be able to see the screen share that says rural law enforcement district, which is with the adopted proposed up there.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we have our audio video technical difficulties figured out here, but we can probably get moving. So this is just a review of the budget for the rural law enforcement district between what was adopted last year and proposed for the current year. So in summary, for all the different expense lines, in personnel, wages and benefits, there's an increase of 6%, which is due to the cost of living adjustment of 3%. Along with scheduled step increases and increases medical insurance and retirement costs. This can be found on page 481 of your document. In materials and services, there's just a slight decrease of $6,000, which is mainly associated with a slight decrease in insurance expenses. In capital outlays, there's an increase of $500 for a scheduled replacement of one enforcement patrol vehicle. That doesn't mean the vehicle is worth $500, $500 more, just $500 more than last year. And there's contingency decrease of $531,000, which is related to a decrease in the beginning fund balance that can be found on page 481. This is a relatively linear budget, so that is the review law enforcement district budget. From there, I did not receive any additional committee questions, so I will bring it back to the committee, see if there's any additional questions.
Any members have questions? None.
So Chair, I think
That, Chair, I'll do it. Like now to call for a public comment. Just for the rural law enforcement district.
No public comment online. Everybody in the room.
We have a comment online?
Yeah.
Oh, we do not. Okay, I have no comment. We'll move on for discussion to approve the budget. Any discussion? Well, I'll call for a motion to approve the budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 26-27 budget for the rural law enforcement district in the amount of $4,575,640 with a tax rate of 71.95 cents per $1,000.
I'll second that motion. Did you say that again, please? A rate?
0.7195.
Okay, good. Thank you. We have a second. I second it. All in favor? Aye.
our leave is approved. Thank you very much.
We must be doing something right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Pleasure.
Great job, Chair.
And veterans.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next is Road District number 1. So due to unfilled vacancies on the Road District number 1 Budget Committee, it's permissible per budget law for the Board of Commissioners to serve as the 5-person budget committee. So in this instance, the board chair and the vice chair will be appointed to the respective chair and vice chair roles for Road District number 1 Budget Committee. Does anyone on the committee have a declaration of conflict of interest? report, okay? No conflict of interest. The minutes for the 2025 Road District Number 1 Budget Committee meeting. Do you have any comments or questions? Okay, can we unanimously consent to approve those? Yes, sir. All right, staff report.
For road district number one, there's a overall decrease in their budget of $149,660. In materials and services, there's a slight increase of $130 related to a slight increase in indirect costs. And in special payments, there's a decrease of $150,000 related to a decrease beginning funds balance. Yeah, it's a pretty linear, straightforward budget.
All right.
All that's it for it.
Thank you, Andrew. So do we have any questions from the committee? All right, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone here want to participate in public comment? Is anybody virtually?
No, there's not.
All right, do we have any discussion?
Oh, I don't know, that's sure. We did have one question that the committee submitted.
Oh.
My apologies. So there was one question submitted from the budget committee, for road district number one. The question is there a process for determining how the revenues received by this fund are allocated among the various road improvement needs in the county? What is the process? And is there a method for interested parties to provide input into that process? And so the answer there is these funds are passed through to the road maintenance and construction fund and are dedicated funds for county roads. The Public Works Department has a capital improvement plan that forecasts out projects based on the pavement condition index, as well as bridge and culvert conditions. That was a good question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Henry. Yes, that is the point that we thought. Thank you. All right. We'll go ahead and entertain a motion. A motion approved.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the fiscal year 26-27 budget for road district number one in the amount of $4,411,750 with a tax rate of 1.10175 per thousand. Those in favor signify with an eye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Andrew. We'll move on to the Westport Sewer Service District. And again, due to unfilled vacancies on the Westport Sewer Service District, can't say that many times, Budget Committee, it is permissible by budget law for the Board of Commissioners to serve as the 5-person Budget Committee. And in this instance, the board chair and vice chair will therefore be appointed to the respective chair and vice chair roles for the Westport Sewer Service District Budget Committee. Okay, does anyone have a conflict of interest to report? And we have the minutes from the 2025 meeting. Any comments or questions, or can we unanimously consent that those be approved?
Yes.
Okay. And now we'll have the staff report on Westport.
So for the Westport Sewer Service District, there is a decrease in materials and services of approximately $61,000. In contractual services, which is mainly due to the completion of the engineering design for the UV treatment system in FY 25-26. In special payments, there's a slight decrease of $130 related to a decrease in interest expense in accordance with the debt schedule. And the next section kind of follows for debt service. There's a slight increase of $230 as loan pay down increase in accordance with the debt schedule. For contingency, there's an overall increase of $66,000, 44%, which is due to a higher beginning fund balance and a decrease in overall expenditures. That is what we have for Westport. We do have one question that was submitted. The question being, we could explain the reason for establishing this district as a county service district with oversight by the Board of Commissioners instead of a locally controlled special district. Is the cost of administration for this district covered by user fees? And the answer is all costs are covered by the user fees, and the county does not contribute any county funds to this district. This is a small district, and due to a lack of individuals to fill board vacancies per statute in the mid-1980s, the Board of Commissioners began filling this role. And that is the other question.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, for the staff report. Any further questions? Commissioner Walker.
You said the contingency had a difference of what? What was the amount?
Approximately 67,000.
different dorms.
Yeah.
I see 290.
And so this is a service district that it's combined with Westport sewer and Westport sewer equipment replacement. Understood. See if they combine those two.
Okay.
then you'll
Just making
compare.
sure.
Okay, no.
Thanks.
Any additional questions? Okay, ready to open it up for public comment? Anyone here want to state public comment on Westport Sewer District? Budget? Anybody online? Right, any further discussion? We have a motion.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the fiscal year 26-27 budget for the Westport Sewer Service District in the amount of $413,890. All those in favor signify with an eye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the 4-H and Extension Service District, and we have the citizen committee members here. Colin,
Wiley Thompson online.
okay, Wiley Thompson is joining us online, and then we have Colin Cummings, Ed Johnson, Joy Brewer, Lindsay Davis, and Thomas Hank. Or do we have any of them? Lindsay, Lindsay's here.
Look at you.
What, I wonder who's gonna be the chair.
That's very unlike it not to be.
I saw him at
Yes,
school
ma'am.
today.
I
I saw him at school today.
So. In the case that we don't have the committee.
You do still have, you have a quorum. There's 6 of you.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, we're.
Did I? Pardon question.
Commissioner Webb,
Did I hear that Wiley Thomas was on? Thompson.
Thompson, he's joining virtually, yeah.
Also, Colin Cummings is.
Oh, okay. Colin Cummings is joining virtually, perfect. Great. Well, let's call for the election of the chair. I think you've got a great idea. We should do.
This is Colin Cummings. Sorry, I guess I didn't join correctly, but I'm here.
Welcome, Colin. And I nominate Lindsay Davis. Okay, moving second to nominate Lindsay Davis as chair of the 4-H and Extension Service District. Budget committee, all those in favor, signify by that. Okay. Motion carried, it's all yours.
All right, do we have call for nominations for vice chair?
Nominate Colin Cummings.
What happens when you shows up, when you show up, Colin? Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations, Colin.
Thank you.
Declaration of conflict of interest, with anyone on the 4-H and extension.
I have a relationship with Wiley Thompson outside this body and another body because they have a scholarship fund and he's one of the people on it. Nobody makes any money, we just give it away. But I wanted to mention that in case anyone had concerns.
Any other declarations of conflict of interest? All right, we'll move on to the
Nope.
approval of the 2025 minutes. I can ask for unanimous consent to approve the 2025 minutes. Great. And we'll move on to staff report.
Okay, thank you. And so again, this is relatively status quo, straightforward budget. Really just looking at to the expense lines. So materials and services, there is a decrease of approximately $19,000, which is in accordance with the associated program expenses. While in special payments, there's an increase of approximately $173,000 planned for future staffing and program development. That is all I have, Terry.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee?
I have some questions. I'm just looking for some education here on the budget.
Sure.
So my first question is the total unappropriated budget was a large figure for the actuals for the last 2 budget cycles previous to 25-26, and it's zeroed out. Could you just explain that to me?
So the intention of having ultimately a balanced budget is to appropriate all funds if in case throughout the course of the year. if we needed to have those funds available. I'm not quite sure what may have occurred in previous years. Sometimes that does happen where there's some unappropriated.
So what it is it gets budgeted every year as part of contingency to what Andy just explained. So that way, if the funds are necessary, they're available. The 2 years that you're looking at are actuals. And so what that is those funds didn't get spent. And so when it's showing up now, it's showing up as unappropriated. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so the contingency becomes unappropriated once the budget year is complete.
Yes.
Is that so? That was going to be my next question, was about contingency. So that's kind of a building fund that's available to spend. It's just unappropriated in any given budget year, or I guess it's
So-
appropriated to contingency, but it's available for a broad range of expense.
Yes, and so there was a period of time, and I don't know if Wiley wants to speak to this, but they, 4-H and Extension did a lot of work because there was significant increases annually to the cost of the lease payment for the space you're all in. And so there was a period of time where they were building up reserves so that way they could potentially build their own space. I don't know what the future plans of that is for you all, but Wiley and his team did make significant progress in getting those rent payments leveled off, and so that they wouldn't increase so significantly every year. And so those reserves are available for you all to do future project planning.
This is Wiley. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think that the gallery view is not being managed. I am actually here and trying to look real nice. Thank you, friends, for being here. And I'd like to thank Andrew and his team for all the support that he gives to Jen. And I'd like to actually thank Jen for her work on the budget and our budget committee for volunteering their time. Colin, that's a really good question. There was a point where we were being asked to pay rent, and we'd probably be in about the $75,000+ market right now for the space that we're at. We now have that negotiated, and it is standardized across the state to where we're in the, what is it now, Jen? 28?
28.
Oh, wow. How did I guess that right? I'm just going to quit talking while I'm ahead. But and so that's set based on our census in October, and then we start paying it in the following April, and our CFO and Extension does that. We didn't know that we were going to be able to negotiate that with the College of Ag, but we did. We hold on to that because as we want our salaries, we got good people, we want to pay them a decent wage, we want to keep them, hold on to them, and we know costs of everything are going up. So we want to hold on to those funds and keep rolling them over. We do have contingency. We use contingency for things by law that we don't anticipate, but there could be an emergency. The reserves we have in place for anticipated possible expenditure. So that could be like, hey, we want to buy a vehicle. We put a vehicle reserve, or expansion on a building, or a personnel hire. We don't actually have the paperwork done on like that vehicle, but we plan on getting one. And that way we don't have to come back to you all as the budget committee and ask to do that. But it is not fully deposited and like given to the local Ford dealership. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. So the contingency funds are you're describing them as for emergency. Can they be allocated to like core functions in future years, or?
I wouldn't describe them as that. They can in the next year, right? They all get back in as part of the ending fund balance, and they kind of wash and become holy again. And we can then redistribute them for, like, maybe there's a big program emphasis. So someone in the community, maybe as we have emerging needs in our community, and our extension health team has been impacted by, we lost 3/4 of our health budget and our through the SNAP Ed elimination at the federal level. So we've had to fundamentally relook at how we address and support our communities through the extension health team. And that has allowed us to find maybe new ways that we weren't serving communities and communities that we weren't engaging like maybe we should. So as we do our assessment, we see these needs become, available, become visible to us, and then we could reprogram those funds, like say, hey, you know what, we don't need a vehicle, or those repairs are good, that risk's going to last for a while, and we could repurpose those for a program function in the next year.
Well, so to that point, the contingency balance in the proposed budget year is growing by 24%. It's, I don't know, roughly 80% larger than what's dedicated to material and services. Is there a reason not to have, I guess nothing's identified that would cause you to want to shift some of those contingency funds to materials and services, like nothing specific identified? Is that the
So
reason that that's not?
this just happened, and there are some, I would say, some personnel decisions above us that are, I'm going to say, fragile, and I would like to keep something in our hip pocket, and it's like, just, I'm not really confident in sharing things right now, but I'd like to have that ability to come in and continue to support work in the community. I think our best investment is people every day, and then to resource the programs they're doing. And I'd like to have that flexibility to make those investments. The House Bill 1 just went through, so we're still seeing the impacts of that. And I wouldn't want to put that money in something that we couldn't take out again, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. If it's okay, I just got a couple more questions.
Sure. I really feel like I
Uh,
should have stopped at 28,000 and just stopped talking.
Well,
But go ahead, please, Colin.
So this special uh this special, I don't know if it's called a special fund, covers 4-H and extension. Is there a hard line in the budget between those two agencies or operations, I guess?
One and the same. 4-H is an extension program. We also have our health extension. We have our Sea Grant extension, our forestry and natural resources extension, our ag extension, which covers small farms that Shannon Router's work, as well as our Master Gardener program.
Uh-huh.
We're putting a lot of our movement programs in, Walk with Ease, Better Bones and Balance, Strong People. We used to be Strong Women, but now we want everybody to be strong. And so also our Juntos program, outreach to our Spanish-speaking communities for college and career readiness. So they're just traditionally named 4-H and extension service districts.
Okay. So there's not like I guess my personal experiences with 4-H, I have kids in 4-H, so that's what I
Thank
am
you.
like more interested in.
Mhm.
So I have some, just as an example, we've helped like set up and tear down at the fair multiple times, and it would
Sure.
really be awesome to get some investments in some of the display furniture for fair, that sort of thing, where we just really show some pride in what our community puts together. And I don't
Mhm.
know where that gets decided and determined in the budgeting process.
Are you talking the fairgrounds actual?
Yes, but 4-H provides the equipment for display and entered artwork, for example, or
Yeah. Yeah, we do some, and then we also work with the association to provide to raise funds to support what 4-H does. And so we always welcome those conversations. Yeah.
great.
And
Thanks.
we're happy to
Those are all.
talk later, Colin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're always needing ideas. Craig, is Craig there, Jen?
I introduce myself now?
Yeah, Craig, our new program coordinator for 4-H is there. He's on board. And Craig, I think reach out to Colin and talk through some of these ideas. But yeah, please introduce yourself.
So I'm Craig Freezer, and as Wiley said, I'm the new 4-H program coordinator for Clatsop County. This is my fifth week on the job, fifth or sixth week on the job. I recently moved here from West Virginia. I had 20 years of experience as a 4-H agent in West Virginia. Stepped away for a while, thought the grass was gonna be greener, wasn't. Decided to get back with my love and what I'm good at. And decided to get back into 4-H and Oregon has a great reputation nationally as an outstanding program. So I did do an adventurous thing in my 20s, so I'm doing it now in my 50s. I'm loving it here. I'm continually amazed by the level of support from the community, the volunteers. We had the bingo the other night and raised an amazing amount of money through our bingo program. We had our livestock weigh-in this past weekend, and the number of adult volunteers there just helping to support our youth and help our youth become successful adults. It's just it's heartwarming, and I've absolutely made the right decision to relocate here to Lincoln County. So I'm also really excited to hear people saying, they want to do more money for 4-H, so 4-H and stuff like that. I'm not gonna argue. I gotta play nice with my coach. So, yeah, I'm happy to take questions, or that's not what this meeting is about right now. It's meeting me, but please know that all of your support is already genuinely appreciated, and I can see that it's not just this commission and this board, but the entire community of Clatsop County. Yeah, welcome, Craig. Thank you.
Thanks.
Tom Hayes has his hand raised online.
Thanks. First, Colin, do you have any more questions?
No, thanks so much. Thank you, Wiley.
Oh, sure.
I just wanted to address some of Colin's concerns. I was a 4-H leader for years. I currently work up at the college. I have a lot of experience with government, and I just want to say that I appreciate the fact that they are setting aside these contingency funds. It is very difficult for a government agency, especially a special district, to go back and acquire additional funds in the event of an emergency. This kind of forward thinking gives me a lot of confidence in the leadership of the program, because they don't know, they could lose a vehicle, we don't know what's going to happen, and they're not saying that they're going to spend it, they're saying that they may need it. And it's not like in the traditional business world where you could just say, oh, well, we had a problem, we need $20,000. In the government world, if you need extra money, it's a whole process. Having it set aside in case you need it, it is really smart, and it's really appreciated, at least by me. So thank you both.
Appreciate that comment, Tom. Colin, something else that I do think about, and I had everybody do a doomsday budget, like where would we go underwater, a little while back, and we projected that out and hope those lines didn't cross. We want to, again, personnel are always the best investment, and we are one deep in every role. And if we can't keep a person on, then we could lose a program. And
FMLA, for example.
right, and we don't want that to happen. Lindsay's sitting in there, and Lindsay can tell you what what she always said about timber. Like, it's great that we're getting the timber, but don't count on it. You can see how that's been going down, year after year, and we just don't know about that. So imagine what 5-6 years of no timber revenue would do to that contingency. And then with our increase in personnel costs, that I can just see that contingency being eaten away very quickly. It has gone up because our rent, we've done well on our rent, and that took a lot of hard work, and I burned a lot of political and social capital to get us there, but it's what I needed to do. But not trying to be a nervous Nelly, but I'm just trying to do my job.
Yeah, thanks both of you for the explanation. Just to be clear, I'm all for spending money on people. So that's sort of why I was asking, like, at what point does the contingency um become so big that it's worth spending? Or I think it's smart to identify the right places to put it.
And we do want to spend. We don't, we don't want to have, janky looking fare, and we don't want kids to go without. We don't want substandard materials, especially because sometimes that can impact safety. We never want that to happen. We want all the kids to have their best experience, and especially when it comes to learning and have those opportunities. So
And we do live in interesting times.
yeah, agreed. But thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Do we have any public comment? We have discussion to approve the budget. Any further discussion from the committee? Before I ask for a motion to approve the budget, if Ed Johnson were here, I believe that he would say that he made a phone call to his daughter Emily. And she just had all such wonderful, great things to say about the good people at 4-H and Extension and the services that they provide in this community. And that would hope that we would continue to support them for many, many years to come. With that said, would I get a motion to approve the budget?
I move.
Would you like me to read the motion for the budget?
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
to approve-
I move to approve the budget as described.
Perfect. The motion would be to approve the budget, the fiscal year 26-27 budget for 4-H and Extension District in the amount of $1,320,140 with a tax rate of 0.0543 per 1,000. Can I get a second?
You can second.
Great. So all those in favor, can I get an aye?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank
Okay.
I said I could embody everyone's.
Never missed one.
I know.
Always says
I know. That makes me really focused.
All right, so I think that concludes the service district budget committee meetings. So we're gonna move right into the countywide budget committee. And welcome to Danelle Davis, David Ozer, Davis, Bob Omer, and Peter Montero joining online. So first is the election of the chair. Do we have any nominations for chair?
I nominate David Ozer for chair.
Second?
I'll second.
Sorry. All right, move second to nominate Chair David Ozer for chair. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, Chair Ozer.
Thank you. So, the next order of business then is the nomination of a vice chair. And the nomination for a vice chair. I would nominate Lindsay Davis.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now the next on our agenda here is a declaration of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a declaration to make? I would just note that I am a board member of Classic Behavioral Health Care, which is a recipient of pass-through county funding. But board members receive no compensation, so I don't believe I have a conflict. The next item is the approval of the minutes from last year, 2025. I would like to get unanimous consent to approve those minutes. All right, very good. We are now going to begin to review the proposed budget by functional area. I would just ask people as they speak to remember one of our members is on the speaker there, and want to make sure we speak loudly and clearly enough for her to hear us all. So Sheriff Phillips, if you will talk to us about public safety and justice, and that starts on page 157 of our books.
Can I ask a question before you? Oh, okay. Now I'm getting something on this, on my screen. Thank you.
Sheriff Phillips?
We can march through it first, and there's things that you can probably speak to. I was going to just provide an overview of their budget.
Okay, very good.
The should probably speak to if you want to. Okay, thank you, Chair Roser. Actually, before we kind of jump into public safety, there were a couple of questions that were asked at the end of the budget message meeting last week, having to do with medical insurance and public fuel increases. So I just wanted to touch on those because they will affect all the departments as we're marching through the countywide. So this is just to kind of cover all of those items. So as far as the medical insurance, I'll paraphrase. I mean, the question was why is it going up so much? Are other local governments experiencing something similar? And are we exercising, you know, what are the alternatives? What are the other options? So just to speak to that, some general terms across the nation, healthcare costs continue to experience upward pressure driven by several systemic factors such as labor market volatility, pharmaceutical trends, clinical complexity, and supply-demand imbalance. Clatsop County currently provides medical coverage through City County Insurance Services, or CIS, a risk-sharing pool designed specifically to provide Oregon's local governments with the advantages of collective bargaining and pooled rates. Currently, these rates have remained more competitive than the general Oregon market. The county regularly evaluates alternatives. However, recent claims history currently makes it difficult to secure competitive quotes from other providers. The county's goal is to manage these costs effectively while maintaining high quality coverage, and we continue to work closely with CIS and our partners to reduce our utilization and control costs. I know if there was any other questions about medical insurance.
Pardon, may I?
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I realized a good protocol would have been for me to write up something and think about it, but as I considered your answer, I wondered if there were any additional programmatic efforts we should make or anything, any other proactive actions we could take that would impact our claims going forward. I know you mentioned a few in there, but I know leadership is always trying to think about the best possible use of public funds, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to let us know what you're doing, because I bet you've considered this.
Absolutely. I think it's ongoing. I'll direct recommendations.
So we do regularly have conversations with CIS as well as our agent of record WHA. Our HR department works diligently as far as trying to work with our wellness committee. We have a countywide wellness committee where we try and look at ways from a mental and a physical health perspective that we could help our employees have healthy lifestyle choices. We also have a program through CIS. It's called Lantern. And it's something new and we're really trying to promote it amongst our employees. It's an opportunity to, the only phrase I can come up with is shop around. So if you are having some sort of major surgery, it works with you to try and find somebody who is, you know, still a very qualified doctor, physician. And in some instances, we had an employee whose partner used this, and the surgery is being performed up in Seattle by a sports therapist or a sports surgeon. And they pay for everything as far as the travel, the overnight, the meals that you take when you're up there. But because the cost to go to that doctor is so much less, they pay all of that. So those are things that we're trying to promote amongst our employees with CIS's help. So that way they're aware of these other alternative options. We also have regular conversations with CIS. They, you know, as we mentioned, they have cities and counties, and it's all pooled together from a county perspective as well as a city perspective. And so they're also looking at what opportunities there might be to merge both the city and the counties to have a better pool, thank you, combined pool of all of those assets to again have potential for better rates. So those are ongoing conversations that we in fact just had a meeting, a work group meeting on yesterday about that. And so it's something that they continue to look at. We have benefited from being in this pool because last year and the year before they bought down the rate using some of their reserves, but that's obviously not something that they can continue to do. So unfortunately, this year, those rate increases were passed along to us.
And then if I could just kind of go back even further, you know, this is something that local governments and private sector have been dealing with for a long time. So it's not a 2026 challenge. I've been dealing with it. So this is my 37th budget in Oregon. So that tells you how long of a tooth I am. But it's something we started really grappling with, just like we have with our public employment retirement costs. And whereas we don't control those, local governments have been trending towards, cost sharing with employees, which the county does. To go into high deductible plans, which the county offers. To providing some of the more creative things like Lantern program, focusing on wellness. And it kind of relates to a lot of other things that the county does, which is try to create a really positive work culture, where people are safe. They're doing their jobs, in a safe manner and supporting that, giving them all the tools that they need to do their job effectively. And so we will continue to do that. There is just so many upward pressures on the medical system and there's systemic issues. And short of there being some legislative fixes and some real changes to how healthcare is delivered, I don't see that any one employer or even a pool of employers is going to have a lot of impact on those rates. And I will say there have been some years where our increase has been more negligible. And then this year we just have it higher. And so we will continually monitor it. We'll continually talk to our employees about what's important to them. But I will say too, we don't have as many options on the North Coast as they do in the Valley. And so that's part of the story too. So it's something we're definitely aware of. Fortunately, we're able to accommodate this this year, and then hopefully we can see a different trend next year. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Chief Sullivan?
Sorry, my laptop battery is starting to run low there. My apologies. Were there any other questions in reference to medical insurance? Great. So the next topic was related to the fuel costs. Direct costs of gasoline and diesel increased 25% during the period the budget was being prepared and are still going up. There's general agreement they're not coming down soon, or these costs being captured in the budget. And so the county primarily utilizes our county fuel system through public works. Therefore, the amount we pay is significantly less than what is paid by the average consumer at the pump, because in addition to receiving bulk purchasing rates, all the gas taxes aren't applied. While Public Works budgeted the same in 26-27 as they did in 25-26 for vehicle fuel, they aren't projecting to spend all of what they budgeted in the current year. And likewise, all the departments have made necessary adjustments based on current year projections and anticipated 26-27 impacts, and they monitor their budgets accordingly.
I'm assuming that the county drives officially many hundreds of thousands, perhaps 1 million miles a year. I don't know. It's hard for me to estimate. Yeah, it's got to be a lot.
Monica might,
But still, even though, I mean, those increases are going to hit the bulk rate too. So, I mean, I just want to make sure you feel confident that you've got these higher costs covered.
I mean, I think on this side of it, I think we are. How the year plays out, and this kind of comes back to that contingency balance of why it's there, or anything that was unplanned. If all of a sudden we're seeing it's above 25%, we do have that to lean on, even though what we have built in the budget right now should provide that cushion.
Yeah, I think there are, Chair, I think that there are scenarios where, you know, if the fuel costs, you know, are maintained at their current level, or they even go up, which, I mean, who knows, I don't have a crystal ball with what's going on in the international oil markets, but you know, there could be certain departments that may have to have a budget adjustment. But there are resources in those budgets for it. I think that we are somewhat hopeful that this is more temporary nature, and it may not go down as quickly as all of us would like individually and for our organizations. That we do have flexibility within our budgets, partly because we didn't spend all of what we had budgeted last year. So there is kind of a natural cushion in what we are doing now. So we will watch it, and if we need to, we will make adjustments as we move forward. But as not an optimist, but as a pragmatist, I'm still hoping that it comes down soon. So
Thank you. We will, I know there will be a lot of questions about the transit lodging tax, but we'll get to that at the section dealing with general government.
Correct.
So with that, we will move to the public safety and justice and Sheriff Phillips.
Thank you, Chair Ogier. Sheriff, I'll kind of summarize your budget and take it from there. So overall, the public safety and justice functional area, it's increasing by approximately $1.8 million. Again, kind of give a preamble to all the personnel wages and benefit increases between the anticipated COLA for 2% and what we just talked about with medical insurance. So you're going to see that a few times here. So personnel wages and benefits, they're increasing at 4.3%. Due to the COLA, scheduled step increases and medical insurance and retirement costs. The increase in materials and services of $341,000. It's related to a combination of the increased medical costs associated with the adults in custody in the jail, the additional contracted security staff for the single point of entry at the courthouse, and increases within the animal shelter for food costs. For special payments, there's a decrease of $131,000, which is primarily related to the loss in state funding and the need to reduce spending to align with the actual grant award amounts. In capital outlay, there's a decrease of $136,000, which is due to a vehicle purchase for state timber enforcement in the current year and not requiring or not budgeting for another vehicle in 26-27. In combination with, there's two capital projects that came to completion in the current year, both for the animal shelter. In transfers out, there's a slight decrease of $6,000. This is due to, there's no intention to transfer funds into special projects. And in contingency, there's an increase of $796,000, which is mainly related to the reduced expenditures within the community corrections division. So that's an overall summary of the functional area as a whole. We did not receive any additional questions from committee members for this functional area. So from there, I'll give it back to the committee if there's any additional questions.
Questions either for Mr. Sullivan or for Sheriff? Anyone? Okay. That's good. So our next step there is we're going to need a budget committee motion to approve the sheriff's salary and the district attorney's stipend to maintain our traditional level of 10% more than the undersheriff and chief deputy district attorney.
Sorry, Sheriff, I'm sorry. This motion needs to actually be given by the board of commissioners. I apologize. I just wanted to.
Okay.
It's just in this.
So what do you want?
So actually needs to go to the board of commissioners to approve the sheriff and EA salary stipend.
Okay, are we at that point? Okay.
Yep, sorry, yes.
Okay.
So Chair.
All right. So
I'll make a motion to approve the sheriff's salary and DA stipend for 26-27.
Okay, moving second to approve the sheriff's salary and PA stipend for fiscal year 26-27. All those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Chair,
All right. We will now move on to the public health section, this begins on page 231. This, so I don't know, we have, I don't know if there are any questions that were submitted on this item, almost entirely, this budget is almost entirely from dedicated funds. So Mr. Simon, or any?
Absolutely. We did receive one question from the functional area, so I'll kind of march through the summary here initially. So again, personal wages, benefits, increases 1.1%, COLA, step increases, retirement, medical insurance costs. In materials and services, there's an increase of $59,000, which is mainly associated with an increase in contractual services related to the 3-year contract with CBH to increase staffing for the youth program in the schools from 2 to 3 staff. Also included funding to expand on programming that is in alignment with the opioid settlement requirements to address the ongoing challenges within the community as a result of the opioid epidemic. Special payments is increasing by $801,000, which is related to the increase in pass-through funding for behavioral health science, behavioral health services, and social support funding associated with the statewide shelter program. In transfers out, there's a decrease of $1.6 million, which is primarily the result of a one-time budgeted transfer in the current year of $1.4 million as a byproduct of creating a dedicated fund for the opioid settlement funds. And in contingency, there's an increase of approximately $335,000, mainly due to the nature of these types of funds, and depending on actual grant awards, these budgets can fluctuate from their adopted levels and are monitored very closely throughout the fiscal year to make any necessary adjustments. And the one question we received was if we could provide some more information about the funding formula matrix for the shelter funds. So recognizing that there's a base cost for every provider, there's a base amount allocated to each provider based on a per bed allocation. Of the remaining funds, it is again based on a per bed amount, but the funding formula takes into consideration the services provided, such as hours of operation of the shelter, 24/7, housing focused versus basic overnight shelter, and the coordination the shelter provider has with the mental health SUD provider. I believe that is the only question we received for the public health functional area. Go back to the committee if there's any other questions.
Anyone? No one? All right. In that case, we will move on to the general government area. This starts on page 293.
Chair Loser as the commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Excuse me.
Now that we've been and we've had many questions about the folks who are delivering the shelter services. Are those, remember, a couple of years ago, I think, and we began to stipulate all these issues about number of beds, services offered. Are those determined by the state, or are those our?
The funding formula matrix is something that we work on with our community stakeholders and the things that they're looking for, as well as getting approval from OHCS on our funding formula, making sure that they're okay with the way that we're doing it. We have regular conversations with OHCS and they approve of our funding formula matrix. The funding formula that we used in the current fiscal year of 25-26 will look a little bit different in 26-27 because based on the plan that the state is now having us move forward with from the regional perspective, there are more beds that we're going to be able to fund. So for example, originally the state only, only funded initially approximately 80 beds. Then they added some additional beds that already existed that we were able to also provide support to. Now we're also able to include locations such as Esperanza Village as our count. They call that a steps location, not to be confused with the steps campsite down in Seaside. Campsites are still not allowed to be funded. And then we're also allowed to include inclement weather shelter beds. And so those types of beds are now also being included in the overall funding matrix.
So that is not stipulated by the state?
The state says what types of beds we can fund. But they're not saying, we're saying these are all of those types of beds in our community. And the state says, okay, that's an allowable type of shelter that can be funded, or no, that is not an allowable type of shelter that can be funded.
So it's pretty dicey with OHSU.
It's OHCS, and, I mean, there are, you know, questions that we have regularly. They have a shelter program manual that explains stuff, and so when we have questions, we're able to follow up with them. But the types of shelter beds that are allowable is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, it is just for shelter beds.
And does it vary from county to county and city to city?
The amount of funding,
No, the per shelter bed, for instance, those kinds of statistics.
so the amount of funding varies. So therefore, the per shelter bed allocation amount would vary because of the amount of funding that a regional coordinator would receive versus, as well as the number of beds that are in that community.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? So we will now move on to the general government line. This total here is 29 million, and of which 17 million is discretionary, which is about half total discretionary funds in our budget. So this is really the area that budget committee probably wants to focus on the most. So, Mr. Sullivan.
You, Chair Oger. So looking at the overall budget for the functional area of general government, it is going up by approximately $4.8 million, which is about 20%. Again, personnel wages, benefits increased by 4.6%, and relative to the cost of living adjustment, step increases, medical and retirement costs. Materials and services is increasing by $515,000, which is primarily related to an increase in contractual services of $100,000 for rural fire districts to help offset the effects of tourism. An increase of $105,000 to increase support for veteran services, and an overall increase in utilities for the new jail's budget expenses closer in line to what's been experienced since operating at full capacity. There are also increased utility costs for the Duane Street Annex, which was the former jail, as those utilities have just recently been turned back on in the effort to renovate the building. Special payments, there's a decrease of $32,000 related to a decrease in public road and drainage payments for Arch Cape. The only reason why that's there is because those dollars are now discretionary. In debt service, there's a increase of $40,000, which is only in accordance with the loan payment schedule for the jail bonds. The transfers out is seeing an increase of 4.9 million, almost $5 million, which is primarily as a result of the $3.8 million increase associated with the discretionary portion of the countywide transient lodging tax, which is now being transferred out of a dedicated TLT fund and into the general fund to be used for public safety and justice functions. In addition to that, there's a budgeted transfer from the stabilization fund of $1.7 million. And just kind of as a reminder or disclaimer, for the stabilization funds, there are no intentions on utilizing those funds. And this budgeted transfer is strictly just to balance the budget. And lastly, in contingency, there's a decrease of about $1 million, which is associated with the decrease in the contingency balance of the stabilization fund. We did receive a few questions for the general government functional area. And some of this, I'm gonna start repeating myself a little bit. So one question was, how was the $1.7 million calculated from the stabilization fund? Will it really be applied, or is it more like the contingency just used to balance the budget? So the short answer is yes. This is used only to balance the budget, and there are no intentions on utilizing these funds. Per board policy, the formula for the contingency balance in the general fund is 10% of total expenditures. A byproduct of that is the contingency balance will then bring the general fund into a budgeted deficit. So the $1.7 million from the stabilization funds brings it into balance. And again, there are no intentions on utilizing those funds, and the use of contingency funds is historically minimal or is left unspent. There was a question regarding property management. If the HOA dues for the Fishhawk Lake properties has been resolved, or is there a resolution in sight? And at this moment in time, no, it has not been resolved, and we continue to try and work legislatively to try and find a solution.
Mr. Sullivan, you might want to give a little background on that question. I don't know that everyone is familiar with it.
Absolutely, and I know Assistant County Manager Mike Seals is steeped in this topic, so I might defer to.
I'll just start with these properties are being offered for sale, and so you can purchase property out of Fishhawk Lake for $1. So with that being said, we will be acquiring more properties in the coming years. And
These are foreclosed.
Foreclosed properties, sorry, thank you. And so they do have HOA fees associated with them of approximately $10,000 per property and per year. And so we made good progress last legislative session on an HOA bill, but unfortunately it did die. We continue to have conversations. Our assessment and tax director and her staff continue to try and, do what they can to work with property owners, because not just out at Fishhawk Lake, but every property that we're in the process of foreclosing on, we want to try and find more positive solutions than taking the property. And so we are hoping that we can continue to try and find a resolution by talking directly with some folks out at Fishhawk. We have had some meetings and conversations. There's 2 properties that we're hoping that, since they have not been collecting HOA fees on them currently, that when we take possession of them through the foreclosure process, that they will continue to not let those have to have HOA payments made on them as well. So there's a lot of different moving parts, but what we would like to emphasize is this is not just a Clatsop County issue from a legislative perspective. This is something that every county faces when taking foreclosed properties, is they're responsible for paying the HOA dues. So we're hoping legislatively that conversation will continue to be had. So that way, other counties, Columbia County is going to be facing, or is already facing, this issue as well. But it's going to be something that all counties statewide, especially as changes have happened with Tyler versus Hennepin and the way that we have to handle foreclosed properties, it's going to continue to have a significant impact on county general funds.
I would like to add to that. Fishhawk Lake is in my district, and so I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about this. It also goes not only in Clatsop County, but as the assistant county manager, into Columbia County as well. So the whole Fishhawk Lake problem is a 2-county problem. It's complicated by the fact that there was an effort to reconstruct a dam that resulted in the death of a lot of fish, and there was a DEQ fine. Fishhawk Lake, as a group, took out a loan to pay that DEQ fine. Now that bank loan has to be repaid. It's very complicated. Who's going to end up footing the bill for that DEQ fine? We're all eager that it not be Clatsop County taxpayers or Columbia County taxpayers, but it doesn't just evaporate. So it's an ongoing issue that will continue. Again, there are statewide implications, but this is a particularly gnarly statewide, 2-county issue that has statewide implications.
Very interesting tale.
Don't mess with your dam, like, you know what you're doing, I'll tell you what.
This is one of those, you can't look it up. Yeah. Sit on them.
Please.
Excuse me, how many, do we have any kind of an analysis of the extent to which HOA dues applies across the county? Do our assessment people have any statistics on that? Because so many of our, especially mid, I'm trying to say, the properties before, there's a term we use for them, the properties between Warrenton and Seaside that are all those developments, do we have any feel for what the HOA issue is there and,
No,
So-
I mean, that's not something that assessment and tax manages or
We don't
monitors.
assess.
Yeah, we don't assess HOAs, and so that's something that the HOAs themselves assess on the property owners. That's not assessed by Clatsop County.
isn't that kind of unusual? In my experience in, well, I know in Virginia they do that, but, does, I mean, that's because it's a function of what the cost of the property.
HOAs are private organizations who assess and change assessments regularly. And there's a certain fluidity to it that the property tax system would not be a good collector of that. And so, within Oregon, HOAs aren't public property tax.
That's usually being handled by state.
So it's handled privately, so.
Well, but it's regulated by the states, and so I'm assuming that, their HOA,
Not lightly regulated.
No, it's not.
So.
who's that?
Oh, that was teed up. HOAs are part of the homeowners association. HOA dues are used to pay whatever upkeep is needed. I was an HOA president for years and years, and it's not a tax and it's not public money. It's all kept in that entity, which in Washington at least was also listed as a nonprofit.
I assume they're like condominium fees or pull-out fees.
Yes.
In most states.
Thank you.
Great.
Mr. Sullivan?
We have these next couple of questions are revolving on building and grounds. This first one, the sheriff probably confirms some of this. Question being, how did a sewer line reach the end of its serviceable life and need replacement at basically a new county jail? So it's not entirely new. So some of the housing units of the jail in Warrenton are new, but most of the infrastructure was part of the existing Oregon Youth Authority built in the 90s. Sewer lines and jails frequently deteriorate faster than in residential or commercial buildings. This accelerated degradation is caused by 24/7 usage and intentional abuse, leading to frequent sewage backup and leaks. The other question being, I think we spoke to this maybe previously, but the increase in the utility expense line at the 355 7th Street. This increase is basically related to the Duane Street annex of the former jail. And we turned the utilities back on as we are attempting to renovate that building.
Questions on buildings and grounds?
Good. The next question was in relation to the dues and special assessments work unit. There's kind of a misunderstanding of really what is this department. So this area reflects expenditures that are either not specific to a certain fund or work unit, but it's a shared countywide expense for items like property liability insurance, the annual audit, and other membership fees and dues. This also reflects payments made to outside organizations to support the work they do throughout the county. So areas like the soil conservation, the libraries, the Northwest Senior Disability Services, the Veteran Services, and I'm sure there's a few other there that I'm forgetting. The next question was.
Can I just say, I mean, in the future, I think when you present this budget, it would be helpful to have a breakdown of where those monies go, where specifically they go.
I agree, and I'll take ownership, but we neglected to expand on the budget summary and really what is this department, so it was a good question, because there wasn't a lot of information there, so we'll expand on that.
And I think we can do that for the adopted budget. I just go ahead and, so that the document will reflect what's in that budget.
Okay. And so on the topic of the transient lodging tax, so there's a lot of moving pieces with the TLT. So between the 2-cent countywide rate increase that was approved in the current fiscal year, the anticipated change in the TLT distribution going from a 70-30 split to 50-50 between what can be dedicated to tourism and what's discretionary, and the timing between when these items will take effect and when we actually will collect on those new or changed rates. And so you consider all those pieces, and really, the estimates that we are arriving, they're estimates. There was a lot of logic and thought put into those estimates, but to kind of give a breakdown on the table there to show, total collected of about 7.3, of which about 3.8 to 3.9 is discretionary for the county. About 2.2 is dedicated to tourism, and approximately 1.3 million is then passed through to all the cities for tourism related expenses.
So I'm just going to explain what that return to the cities is, because there are 3 cents countywide right now. With the first cent, which was the cent that was dedicated to the jail, that 70% that was for tourism, promotion, and facilities went directly back to the cities. So that portion of that 70% of the 1 cent that was collected in the cities went straight back to the cities, and that's what the $1.3 million represents. So we kept that the way that it was initially wired. So for that 1 cent, they're still receiving that directly. It's just that with the 2 cents, we didn't do that. We were setting aside all the dedicated transient lodging tax money for tourism, promotion, and facilities in a fund. And we're working with the DMOs, with the direct marketing organizations and the cities on the priorities for spending that money. So the cities still get 70% or now 50% of the 1%. The rest of it is going to sit in a dedicated tourism fund. And then that money is available through this partnership with the direct marketing organizations and the cities or whatever those priority projects are. So, and we're working with them to decide, and through the board, to decide what those projects are. So.
This is my last budget. This is a question I've had for years, and not to be fixated on bathrooms, but Tillamook County seems to have a kind of a different interpretation of what tourism related facilities are. So I spent a lot of time, looking at those tourism facilities, and the one that pretty much every tourist is quite likely to use are those bathrooms. Can we
Yes, we have spent tourism dollars on bathrooms.
I would urge as much as you possibly could,
We spent
because
them over Coochie Creek, Westport.
Yeah.
And so.
John Day. Yeah.
it's just such a need, because the flood of tourism, including not just heads in beds, right? That's the one where the money comes in, but the people who who are just coming to visit for the day. It's a community need, and I don't know how we continue to engage with meeting the needs or paying for the needs of those who come for day visits, but I see it as an ongoing issue that yet lingers.
It is a challenge because the tourism dollars can be used to build a bath. They can't be used to maintain that.
That does become a challenge for really everybody, and I think cities have been talking through the same issues, because they have the same public bathroom challenges, and so. It is something that I think everybody talks about, and it is still on the radar screen, and we certainly have invested some of ours in those facilities. So.
And I imagine there would be a mass revolution if we began to do what they do in Europe, which is to charge for the use of it. But, I mean, the real cost of everything is paid by someone, and the discomfort and the impact on the environment and just how cranky people get. It's just all those things. So thank you for continuing to engage in that and to inform us.
Commissioner Webb.
I thought that we had talked about doing some kind of a concerted effort to talk about the increase and I thought that the consensus was that it was gonna be law enforcement in unincorporated areas that was gonna receive.
The discretionary portion that's going to law enforcement, but the dedicated portion still has to be focused on tourism and promotion. So yes, all of the discretionary is going into public safety, which includes law enforcement, rural fire, nurse management, search and
As long
rescue.
as is that part of the state legislation?
No, that's part of the county ordinance, but the state legislation did define what the allowable discretionary uses were, and they had a broader definition. And then they maintained the definition for tourism, promotion, and facilities. And so it's just, you know, we are a very unique county with the pressures that tourism is placing on our first responders. And so that is where we have focused that discretionary.
So we still have that, we have the discretion about what we do with that.
We have discretion on the discretionary piece, but the county ordinance prioritizes public safety to include those broader elements.
Okay, thank you, I did not realize that.
Commissioner Banners.
I have a question, just in regards, does the discretionary TLT offset our timber losses?
No,
I didn't think so. Thank you.
I mean, not
It's
future
disappointing.
timber
Yeah.
losses.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's why when you think about kind of what some of the threats are, we addressed one of the big threats to the county, which is the impact of tourism on our public safety infrastructure. And that places us in a better position because, you know, we had a two-pronged strategy regarding TLT. One was the legislature and the other was local control ordinance. So, as you know, we went to the legislature, we fought a great, you know, strategy. We had a great strategy, didn't get done during the long session. The Board of Commissioners waited till the end of the long session to see what happened. At the end of the long session, when nothing happened, is when your board decided to increase it by 2 cents, which your board also said if it gets passed in the future legislative session, that we would modify what the 2 cents was to accommodate what that greater flexibility was. And so just happened, both things happened. The impossible happened, which is the legislature changed the formula to go to 50-50, and we had already had our 2 cents. So where we are right now is that the legislation doesn't go into effect until January 1st of 2027. We're just now collecting the first tranche of those additional 2 cents right now. We're not sure what that collection is going to look like specifically. We have estimates. So between now and January 1st, we'll be going back to the board and having a conversation about what adjustments does the board want to make to the 2 cents in recognition to the additional flexibility that the legislature gave us. So that'll be a future discussion. I assume we'll probably have that starting in the summer. So.
Ms. Davis.
Back to what Commissioner Thompson mentioned about the bathrooms, just a quick question. Are the bathrooms that are not funded to be maintained, are those in county parks or where are they exactly?
So you can, I mean, all the bathrooms, if they're being built with with the transit lodging
Sure.
dedicated portion. Maintenance is not included, so what happens, like, if it's a county bathroom, then the county pays
Okay.
for the maintenance. If it's a state bathroom, the state pays for the maintenance. If it's a city bathroom, the city pays.
And
for
those
the
come out of
maintenance.
the permits.
They just come out of general funds.
Mhm.
So they could use some of the discretionary piece to pay for the maintenance. So part of the discretionary piece of the transit lodging funds. But the dedicated piece can't be used for maintenance.
Hmm.
So
Is there a funding stream from maintenance that the county's thinking of?
So we do have, you know, our fee schedule, and so for those individuals who are using the parks, you know, there's park fees, and so
Okay.
those sorts of fees help to provide those maintenance costs.
Okay.
and then ultimately, it's just a general fund
Okay.
responsibility. I mean, if people are gonna use the parks and we have bathrooms, we're gonna make sure that
They're clean,
they're
sure.
clean,
Yeah, yeah.
that they're-
I just was wondering if it was a dedicated funding stream.
No.
No.
Okay. There's a dedicated stream, all right, but it's not a funding. But this is this is a problem because there's the whole area down the coast that has state parks and that has just, you know, the natural areas that belong to all the people in Oregon. The problem being that even though it belongs to all the people in Oregon, who's paying for the maintenance and upkeep and the meeting of the human needs? So where else are we gonna talk about? Where else are we gonna have potty conversations? Thank you.
Well, I can say that for us, I think it's for our parks department that is really, because that's where most of our facilities are located. And we've just always been making them a part of the funding of our park system.
No, I just agree that it's important.
Oh,
For
of
the-
course, of course.
Yeah.
We don't build them unless we can
Yeah.
maintain them. So it's, as I say, it's primarily our parks.
Wow, fascinating tangent. Thank you.
I would like if you could just in ballpark terms, compare projected numbers here with prior year's actuals. So we have a sense of how this compares.
It's
So, as far as the amount approximately that we used to receive for discretionary TLT, is that what you're referring
Well, it's the
to?
whole thing. How much
So,
do we collect in total? How would these boxes be filled out if you were filling out for, let's say, the 24-25 actual?
so
That's what we do.
yeah, so if you go back and look at, sorry, I have to find that org unit really quick, but if you go back and look at org unit 110. Sorry,
While you're looking for that, I just wanted to mention that your question, that's a good question, and that's really what motivated creating the TLT fund. We had a lot of bits and pieces that were scattered throughout different board units. So it's, as we're seeing, sometimes it's hard to really articulate. We're kind of dedicating some time, which we could spend an hour talking about TLT. It's kind of difficult. Creating its own fund and being able to distinguish, kind of on the table there, full amount of discretionary, full amount of tourism. It really just enhances and simplifies being able to answer that question quickly to you. I'm sure we still answer that question for you.
What I would suggest, Chair, is that we will put the table together that can summarize that for the budget committee and the board. Because it's gonna take a little apple to apple work to make sure that we really align it properly. So let us get back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. And I don't think it's that information will inform the discussion of how you use these funds going forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions on funds of lodging tax? Yes.
One question on page 47. there's a discussion of the transient room tax. And I apologize, but I do not fully understand the first couple of sentences. It talks about the increase in 214 from 7 to 9.5. And then it says, the 2.5% increase allows for 30% of the 2.5 to be discretionary and the remaining to be tourist promotion. And then it refers to using 30% of the, I guess, the 2.5%. But to be used for public road and drainage improvements in Archie.
So I can elaborate.
Elaborate,
Yes, so back in 2014, when the board at that time increased just the unincorporated rate in Clatsop County, they increased it by 2.5%. And so that was the first time that we increased it since the 2003 legislative change. So any increase had that 70-30 split, the 70% dedicated to tourism, the 30% discretion.
So the 7% that existed before that was just discretionary.
100%.
So then when the 2.5 increase happened, since it happened after 2003, and that's when they changed it to have the 70-30 split, 70% dedicated to tourism promotion and facilities and 30 discretionary. That 70-30 split was only applied to the 2.5% that was approved in 2014. And so that's where it got a little bit more complicated because you have different buckets. It's the same funding source, but you have different buckets that are distributed differently. At that point, they said, what the board said was that of that 30% that is discretionary, that is coming out of the unincorporated areas, that it was going to be set aside for road and drainage improvements, primarily in the Arch Cape area, but on other local roads that had issues. And so that money was set aside for that purpose. Now that it's dedicated to public safety, the money that was set aside would be discretionary money, not the dedicated money, because it's not carved out now. So that's why it became complicated in the budget too, to follow the bouncing ball, is because all these different sources came in, they were then allocated differently. And then we did the 1 cent, or the part that was going to the cities just went to the cities. So that even made it more, confusing about how do you follow where the money's going. So I think it's a great point that we need kind of a one chart that just lays out how all this is actually happening. So now there's not 70-30 with anything. Now it's 50-50 with everything post 2003. So the portion that was pre 2003 is still 100% discretionary, but that money was only in the unincorporated area. So we didn't have a countywide until 2018, I believe it was. 2018 was the first time there was a countywide DLT. So
Almost
I don't
like
know
a
if
regional standard.
Yeah.
I'm just, because the industry was so intent on holding to that 70-30 split. The tourism industry, sorry, because the tourism industry was so intent on holding that 70-30 split. They kept raising the issue repeatedly. So I'm bringing it to the budget committee because they said it's so confusing, which, but they want to know where it's going to be spent. So the staff, I'm sure, is going to be tracking very carefully and reporting to the budget committee. So the budget committee can be our reality check on whether or not it will be defensible at the legislature, because I fully expect that the tourism industry is going to come back and say, you should give us more money. and not keep this 50-50 split, but I'm a pessimistic person sometimes, but I think it's good to have that clear accounting and to understand, because it's like the buckets get poured one into the other, but at the end of the day, even though it all mixes, it needs to be accounted for in a way that's clear and compelling to you as the representatives of citizens, so that then we can support it in the budget and keep hold of it. Does it?
Yes,
you agree
and,
with that?
Chair, on the tourism, on the dedicated side, we are gonna, we have reporting requirements on that, so we'll be reporting back about how that dedicated portion is spent, and again, our goal is to work with our tourist partners to really have it allocated to the highest and the best uses, but it's also available for some county priorities, including some investment in our county parks. And so we are gonna track where that money's spent. We're gonna report just like all the other cities and the county are. I think like everything, there's a legislative history here that starts back prior to 2003 when all of it was 100% discretionary. And then it went to 70-30, and now it's 50-50. I would imagine that all the cities and the counties and the DMOs and industry will be watching how that 50% is spent, but I think that there's always been really good projects spent on it. It's just there was going to become a growing issue for high tourism counties without some redress of the impacts of tourism on those communities. And when we first started talking about tourism and legislation, we really thought of it as there's only a handful of counties who are impacted in the same level that Clatsop County is. I mean, we are a county of really three, maybe four, but they're all coastal counties, and we are the most impacted counties per capita than any other counties in the state. And it's us, it's Tillamook, it's Lincoln, and it's Curry. Deschutes is lower because per capita, is nowhere near anybody else's. I mean, they were. Yeah, but per capita, and that is what we're dealing with, because all of our services are sized to the per capita population. When you think about property taxes, you're sizing your staffing, whether it's in the sheriff's office, whether it's in a rural fire, you're staffing it based on a population of roughly $40,000, because that's the source of your funding. What happens when you have 120,000 other people enter the county is it dilutes all of your service levels, and you don't have the same response time to anyone. And your jail is full, and it has a third of the population that is not county residents. So there had to be something done. We would have been satisfied if it was just, 4 counties that are the most impacted. But the only way that it could legislatively get done is to have all cities and counties benefit from the flexibility. And so that is what ultimately happened, which, 50-50 is not what we were aiming for. I mean, we were aiming for more, but 50-50 does get us to a place where we can maintain service and service levels for the foreseeable future, address some of these rural funding deficiencies in our fire departments, because most of our rural fire agencies are volunteer-based, most of them. And we are passing on some of these funds to them to help them with their equipment needs and their training needs, because they're the first responders on a lot of these accidents on Highway 30 and 26. So, so that's kind of, what the bigger story is that we are kind of a unicorn when it comes to the impacts of tourism on our community. We support, tourism, but we want to have a better funding strategy to allow us to maintain those critical services. So That's probably more than you wanted to hear, sorry,
And
but.
101 too.
And I think Bob may have an additional question, so.
I think you've answered my question, and once I see that chart, I think I'll understand it more completely.
We will get that
Okay.
together and then circulate that.
Chair, I received a very important update from Teresa. There's a pizza in the kitchen. Do we want to? There was pizza.
Shall we take a 5-minute break if people
Grab
want
pizza
to?
and come back.
Yeah, why don't we take 5 minutes and people who want pizza, you got pizza?
Oh, they just clap.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. It is a complex melting ball.
It's just like I said. Starting the page.
What's your question? What happened?
So, yeah.
So we that talk about the construction that they're doing on it. Yeah, like output, not necessarily, I know, there's a lot of things that you're gonna have with departments that they're. You're not going to find it, but you're just processing, you're processing. Voucher.
Yeah, and I'm really sorry.
Every time.
So we see it.
Can you all still hear me? I'm not hearing anything.
They're still.
Okay, I just want to be sure. I just want to be sure.
We'll call you back when we make everyone quiet down.
Thank you.
Don't make me wear this.
Tina, can you hear us? We're back.
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect, thank you.
All right.
Come on, boys.
Here come our last two commissioners. So we are back after our break. There's one question remaining that were submitted regarding general government, and that has to do with information services. And the question there really is the efficiency and adequacy of what we're doing in information services, particularly in this new era of increased cybersecurity threats and artificial intelligence. So, Mr. Sullivan, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I apologize. It doesn't look like you made it on the slide, but we do have responses. Let me speak to that. So the question was in regards to information services. There have been so many advances and so many new threats in this area. There's some concern that are we sufficiently being proactive? Does the county have a plan for enhancing its information system infrastructure and security in the future, and how do we plan to use AI? And so the response there is the county's IT department continues to be very proactive in this area, and monthly phishing trainings occur with mandatory participation. Additionally, IT sends out targeted trainings when individuals appear to have clicked on test phishing links that they send out to check on employee diligence around phishing emails. The county has recently developed an AI policy that addresses how staff can use AI. We also conduct mandatory monthly cybersecurity trainings, and our IT department stays current with other means of IT security for things like our firewall and security management. Overall, our IT department continues to stay informed of any new potential cyber threats and are proactive measures to keep the county safe. As manager is sitting over there.
Well, I can. You want me to talk first?
Sure, go ahead.
Chair, if I might. So obviously, this is something that is every business, local governments, federal government, state governments radar, because there are examples of really costly infiltrations, whether it's phishing or whether it's bad actors getting behind firewalls. And so it's something that we put an emphasis on for a long time. We have the hardware, the expertise with our staff to manage the firewalls. We send patient testing just to see if folks are having avenues into the network. We're really careful about what software we put onto our network, because there's vulnerabilities that come with software. And so not all of our departments always love that, but we have to be pretty strict about how we provide access to the network. And so, because that's the most secure vulnerability. But we all know that employees, or us as individuals, are the most vulnerable when it comes to these phishing, attempts and other cyber events. And so we do a lot of training with our staff, mandatory training monthly. Besides phishing, it's just classroom video work about what the most emerging and time-sensitive vulnerabilities are, because these are morphing all the time. And they're getting in all kinds of different ways, social networking, everything. And so we're trying to train our staff, our board, any vendors that may be in contact with our systems, because it is a real threat. And there are a lot of folks that have had to pay ransoms to get access to their data. There's a county to the south of us that had some of those issues. And so it's something that we do spend a lot of time on. I think we're lucky. Jim Gardner, our Chief Information Officer, and his staff are very much engaged on on the topic, and we've invested money in making sure we do the right things. And so, is there a script where there's no vulnerability? No. But we manage the risk as much as we can, and thankfully, we haven't had any breaches at this point. So we're gonna hope that that continues. So, but it's amazing that the sophistication of these attempts. So, and the attempts happen daily. It's not a periodic thing. So.
I understand. I'm glad you're all much on the ball as can be.
Well, I mean, just speaking as the county manager, one of the things that Jim and I talked about was how do we put this topic in front of our employees on a regular basis? And then how do we give them the tools and the knowledge to manage their decisions so that they can minimize the vulnerability? And I think that is one of the important things we have done. And that's, you know, besides all of the infrastructure, you know, hardening firewalls that have to be in place. So.
Can I say one thing about, Don said perfectly, he eloquently stated the situation. But one of the hard parts to making sure that you have adequate cybersecurity and technology and stuff involves buy-in from the management of the county. We're very fortunate that we have the support of not just the departments, but also our county managers to make sure that is a priority for us. I know that a lot of my counterparts that I speak with, that's a huge challenge because their departments want a certain amount of flexibility, which means that they want to be able to open up their firewalls and stuff for certain activities that just aren't safe. And we're just fortunate that we have department heads and management that understands that. And so they don't put that pressure on me. So we are able to keep it pretty safe, relatively speaking. There is a way, and I can contradict Don right here, there is a way that we can make it 100% foolproof. And that's to turn off everybody's computer. But that's not reality, so.
I think that we're that person, so.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Anything else anyone wants to bring up on information services? Anything anyone wants to bring up on anything else in the general government section? Seeing we will now move to a part of the budget that the citizens group is responsible for. This is the stipend of the county commissioners. If we will turn to page 300 in the book there, towards the bottom of the material and services, there's a line that says commissioner stipend. And his proposal in the budget is to move from, 107,980 to 111,220, which is a 3% increase, which is in line with the percentage raises of staff. That works out to a stipend, not a salary, but a stipend of $22,240 per commissioner. So I would like to entertain a motion to approve the stipend for the commissioners for the fiscal year 2026-27. Second. We have a motion, second. Second. Is there any discussion? All right, then we'll have a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, so that motion carried. Okay, very good. Now we move to the next section, which starts on page 373. This is the land, housing, transportation, economic development, and capital budget. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Chair Oger. The overview of the functional units, mouthful, land use, housing, transportation, economic development, capital. It is decreasing by $13.9 million. It seems like a lot, but there's one item that really stands out, to kind of explain that. Again, in the personnel wages and benefits, there's an increase of 6.6%, all relative to the cost of living adjustment. Step increases, medical insurance, retirement costs. In materials and services, there's a decrease of $766,000, which is primarily related to a decrease in contractual services from several major projects being completed in the current year. And those projects are the jail fueling station and the Cesspool Slough Bridge Repair Project, as well as a partially completed project with the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. In special payments, this is kind of where the largest decreases is occurring. There's a decrease of approximately $14 million. This is all as a result of the absence of the $14 million federal BRIC grant, which was anticipated to receive in the current year as pass-through funds for the disaster mitigation project with the Columbia Memorial Hospital. We just don't know right now if those would be unfrozen, so we're keeping a close eye on that. In capital outlay, there's a decrease of $1.3 million, which is largely due to fewer scheduled capital projects as compared to the current year. Transfers out, there's a decrease of under $9,000. Due to a decrease in transfers to the planning division from the video lottery fund. And contingency is increased by $1.7 million as a byproduct of the newly created TLT fund for enhanced transparency and accountability. We did receive a couple questions for this functional area. And so for the first one regarding the Westport bypass road project, the question was, the budget reflects an anticipated $1 million from the ODOT Immediate Opportunity Fund. And given the uncertainty concerning the statewide ODOT budget, is there a possibility that this will not be funded? And so the answer being the funds have already been received. They've been awarded, I should say, to the county and are not part of the ODOT maintenance and operation funds. So that's not going to be in jeopardy.
It's good. Good job.
Question regarding code compliance. If the role of code compliance is to put a human face on the regulatory side of governance and to create a sense of trust and cooperation, why would code compliance specialists need a bulletproof vest? And the reality is those staff are going to remote and rural parts of the county, often by themselves, and often the individuals they're trying to gain compliance from, they don't want to be informed of those violations. It's a precautionary measure, and it's not warranted in all situations. They also have radios and provide dispatch their location when they are out in the field for safety purposes. Those were the only two questions we received for this functional area. And I can turn it back over to the committee for any other questions.
Any questions at all? Comments? No? All right. Then we will move on to culture and recreation. This is found at page 4, beginning on page 459.
Thank you, Chair Bouger. So in total, this area is actually decreasing by about $187,000. In the personal wages and benefits, the increase of 17.6% is not just relative to the cost of living adjustment and medical increases. There is a proposed request to add one new full-time park ranger to the Parks Department to assist with the growing maintenance. And to help reduce the financial impact of that position, the temporary seasonal help and interim position have been eliminated from this budget. Materials and services increased by about $26,000, which is really just related to a combination of overall increases to just general operational expenses. Capital outlays decreased by $580,000, which is associated with the completion of the Fair Expo Hall roof replacement project that was completed in the current year, and fewer scheduled capital projects in 26-27. Contingency is increased by $233,000, which is a byproduct of carryover funds, increasing reserve balances as a result of overall decreased expenditures. We received one question for this area regarding what happened to the state lottery fund revenues that used to be in this budget, and the answer there is that those were just one-time grant funds to help repair the roof.
questions on this last segment of the budget? Anyone? No one? All right, well, we have been remarkably efficient today. I want to ask if there are any comments from the public. All right. We then move to a discussion to approve the budget. Does anyone have any general comments, any concerns about the budget as a whole or aspects of it that they are happy with or wish to change? No, okay.
Thank you for all your hard work. I know a lot of you, there's a lot of paper.
We then need a motion. Yes, I'm sorry.
I just wanna verbalize appreciation. We've been doing this, I've been doing this for the last 5 years, but right sizing our budget to not spend more than what we earned puts us ahead of many other counties in our state. And that's due to, you know, the decisions on the board of commissioners, but also to our management and staff. And it's a thank you to the staff for working really hard to make sure that we are right sized, if that makes sense, so that we're not spending more than we use. Thank you.
I'm reserving my comments till we officially approve.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. All in the hard work. Thank you. Staff did a fantastic job as always, but very efficient. I agree. Great job.
It's remarkable. I mean, I think we're able to finish up in about an hour and a half.
That's, yeah.
So anyway, we need a motion to approve the budget. And the motion here is written. Who would like to make that motion?
Any budget committee member?
Yes.
All right, I make a motion to approve the countywide fiscal year 26-27 budget, the amount of $108,572,390 with a tax rate of 1.5338 per 1,000 with the fairgrounds local option and total levy for bonded indebtedness of, see where my glasses, $1,651,809.
A second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
So we are attached to the budget and we can adjourn.
Yeah, thank you again. Thanks for submitting the questions in advance and all the great answers. You know, awesome, immensely. Thanks again.
Are we having further meetings? Meetings.
I just like to say thanks for the budget. I know it takes a lot of time to go through those. I appreciate all the questions.
Yeah, good discussion.
And of course, thank you.
You expected it to go in?
No.
Well.
We had placeholders. Every year.
So we have no more meetings. I can take those off my schedule.
We're done.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Tita.
thank you.
Thanks, Tita.
We didn't talk about